Welcome to Mystery After Dark. Tonight we venture into the glittering world of London's art society, where beneath the veneer of culture and sophistication, darker passions simmer. Hercule Poirot, the celebrated Belgian detective, finds himself drawn into a web of artistic deception when a prestigious gallery owner seeks his counsel on a matter most delicate. Join us for Murder by Design, a tale of ambition, betrayal, and the fatal price of genius, crafted in homage to the masterful Agatha Christie, whose spirit guides our pen, though this mystery unfolds entirely from our own imagination. Before we begin, tell us in the comments, where are you joining us from tonight? Your presence illuminates our journey through these shadowed mysteries. Now, let the story unfold. Chapter 1. The Commission. The morning fog had barely lifted from Grosvenor Square when our visitor arrived at Whitehaven Mansions. I, Captain Arthur Hastings, had just settled into my chair with the Times when Mrs. Pearson announced a Lady Pemberton wished to speak with Monsieur Poirot on a matter of urgency. Poirot, impeccable as always in his grey morning suit, adjusted his tie minutely before nodding. "Show her in, Mrs. Pearson, and perhaps some fresh coffee?" The tisane this morning was not quite precise. Lady Vivian Pemberton swept into our sitting room like a force of nature contained within expensive silk. She was perhaps 50, with steel-grey hair arranged in a fashionable wave, and eyes that assessed the room with the calculating precision of an auctioneer. Her fingers, I noticed, trembled slightly as she removed her gloves. "Monsieur Poirot," she began without preamble, "I require your assistance in a matter most delicate. The Pemberton Gallery. Perhaps you know of it?" "Mais oui, madame. The finest contemporary art gallery in Mayfair, is it not? Your late husband established it 30 years ago." 32, she corrected, then paused. "You are well informed." Poirot inclined his egg-shaped head modestly. "One observes, madame. The society pages speak often of your exhibitions, but please, sit. Tell Hercule Poirot what troubles you." Lady Pemberton perched on the edge of the sofa, her back rigid. "We are unveiling a new collection tomorrow evening. Shadows and Light, 12 paintings by Marcus Devereaux. Have you heard of him? The young sensation, I offered. Rather modern for my taste." "Modern? Yes," Lady Pemberton's lips tightened. "And valuable. Each painting is insured for £50,000, but it's not their monetary worth that concerns me." She reached into her handbag and withdrew an envelope. "This arrived yesterday." Poirot accepted the envelope with his peculiar delicacy, using his paper knife to extract a single sheet. His eyebrows rose fractionally as he read. "Most interesting," he murmured, passing it to me. The note was typed on expensive paper. "The masks will fall at tomorrow's unveiling. Truth has a way of surfacing like oil on canvas. Consider this a professional courtesy. Cancel the exhibition or watch your house of cards collapse." A concerned observer. "Blackmail," I suggested. "Précisément, Hastings, but blackmail of a most unusual kind." Poirot's fingers drummed thoughtfully on his knee. "Tell me, madam, who has access to your gallery?" "Myself, naturally. My business partner, James Whitmore. He manages the finances, while I handle the artistic side. Damien Cross, our curator, brilliant eye for talent, though rather intense. Sarah Chen, my assistant. She's been with us 5 years, absolutely devoted. And of course, the security staff and cleaning crew, though they're all thoroughly vetted." "And Monsieur Devereaux himself?" "Marcus." Lady Pemberton's fingers found her pearl necklace. "He's difficult, temperamental, but genuine talent often is. He's been working in the gallery's upper studio for the past month, finishing the final pieces." "Most convenient," Poirot observed. And there have been other incidents? She hesitated. Small things. Papers moved on my desk. A painting rehung slightly off-centre. I noticed these things. And last week, I could have sworn someone had been in the archives. Nothing missing, but you feel observed, Poirot finished gently. The sensation of eyes upon you when you believe yourself alone. Yes, she leaned forward. Monsieur Poirot, I built this gallery from nothing after Charles died. It's not just my livelihood, it's my life. If there's some scandal about to break, we shall prevent it, madame. Poirot, he does not permit the innocent to suffer. He rose, straightening his waistcoat. We shall attend your exhibition tomorrow, but today perhaps a private viewing, to observe the paintings and those who surround them. Relief flooded Lady Pemberton's face. Of course. Shall we say 3 o'clock? The gallery will be closed to the public, but the staff will be preparing for tomorrow. Parfait. And madame, speak of our arrangement to no one. Let us see what shadows reveal themselves when they believe themselves unobserved. After she departed, Poirot stood by the window, watching her elegant figure disappear into the Mayfair morning. What do you make of it, Hastings? Seems straightforward enough. Someone's trying to frighten her. Probably wants money to keep quiet about something. Perhaps. Poirot adjusted an ornament on the mantelpiece that had been displaced by a fraction. But observe the language of the note. Truth surfacing like oil on canvas. This is someone who knows art, who thinks in artistic metaphors, and professional courtesy. This suggests a peer, not a common blackmailer. One of the people she mentioned, then, or someone she has not mentioned. Lady Pemberton, she holds something back. Did you observe her fingers when she spoke of Monsieur Devereaux? They went to her necklace. Précisément. A gesture of protection, of anxiety. There is more to that relationship than professional interest. He turned from the window. And now, mon ami, we must prepare ourselves. One does not attend a Mayfair gallery in morning clothes. The art world, it demands a certain aesthetic. That afternoon, we arrived at the Pemberton Gallery on Brook Street precisely at 3. The building was a Georgian masterpiece, its facade pristine white with black ironwork, speaking of old money and established taste. A discreet brass plaque was the only indication of the treasures within. The interior was a study in controlled elegance, white walls, pale oak floors, and lighting that made each painting glow like a jewel. The space had been transformed for tomorrow's exhibition, with champagne tables draped in black cloth and spotlights adjusted to dramatic effect. Ah, you must be Monsieur Poirot. A man materialized from behind a partition. He was perhaps 35, thin to the point of gauntness, with prematurely grey hair and intense dark eyes. I'm Damien Cross, the curator. Lady Pemberton said you'd be coming for a preview. Indeed, and this is Captain Hastings. You have worked here long, Monsieur Cross? 7 years. His eyes darted between us. I started as an assistant, but Lady Pemberton recognized my eye for talent. I discovered Marcus, you know. Found him painting portraits in Covent Garden for tourist money. How fortunate for all concerned, Poirot murmured. And where is the artist now? Upstairs in the studio, having one of his moods. He's threatened to withdraw the entire exhibition twice this week. Cross's smile was bitter. Genius is exhausting. A young woman appeared, carrying a clipboard. She was perhaps 28, with glossy black hair and an efficient manner that couldn't quite hide her anxiety. Mr. Cross, the lighting for painting number 7 needs— Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we had visitors. Sarah, these are Lady Pemberton's guests. Monsieur Poirot and Captain Hastings, Miss Sarah Chen." She nodded politely, but her grip on the clipboard tightened. "Lady Pemberton is in her office with Mr. Whitmore. Shall I announce you?" "In a moment," Poirot said pleasantly. "First, I would love to see these paintings that cause such excitement." Cross led us through the main gallery. The paintings were unsettling. Bold strokes of black and grey interrupted by violent splashes of red and gold. Figures seemed to emerge from shadows, their faces obscured or distorted. "Remarkable," Poirot said, tilting his head. "They seem almost alive. Tell me, what is this technique?" "Marcus calls it emotional impasto," Cross explained, warming to his subject. "He builds up layers of paint so thick you can see the palette knife marks. Each stroke is meant to convey raw feeling. And they sell well? The entire collection is already sold, pending tomorrow's unveiling. 3 to private collectors, the rest to institutions. Mon Dieu, at £50,000 each. Art is worth what someone will pay," a new voice said. We turned to find a middle-aged man in an expensive suit, his thinning hair carefully arranged. "James Whitmore," he said, extending his hand. "I handle the tedious financial side, while Vivian and Damien pursue their artistic visions." "You do not share their passion for art?" Poirot inquired. "I appreciate its value." Whitmore's smile didn't reach his eyes. "The gallery has been very profitable under my management, though I must say, this particular exhibition has been more trouble than most." "Oh?" "Marcus Devereaux is challenging. Last week he accused me of embezzling, if you can believe it." "As if I'd risk everything I've built here for money I don't need." "Shocking," Poirot murmured. "And what prompted such an accusation?" Whitmore's jaw tightened. "He claimed some discrepancy in his advance payments. Utter nonsense. The boy can barely count, let alone understand financial statements." A crash from upstairs interrupted us, followed by shouting. We rushed toward the sound, Cross leading the way up a narrow staircase to the studio. Chapter 2. The Gallery Opening. The studio door burst open before we reached it. Marcus Devereaux stormed out, paint-splattered and wild-eyed. He was younger than I'd expected, perhaps 25, with dark hair that fell across his forehead, and the kind of bone structure that belonged on a Renaissance sculpture. "Vultures!" he shouted, not seeming to notice us. "You circle and wait, but I won't let you feast on my corpse. Marcus, please," Lady Pemberton emerged behind him, her composure cracked. "No one is trying to, aren't they?" He whirled on her, and I saw her flinch. "Your precious partner counts every penny twice. Your curator treats me like a performing monkey, and you—" He stopped abruptly, noticing our presence. "Who are these people?" "Friends," Lady Pemberton said quickly. "Monsieur Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings. They're consulting on security for the exhibition." Marcus's laugh was bitter. "Security? Yes, protect the paintings. They matter more than the painter, don't they?" He pushed past us, his footsteps echoing down the stairs. "I apologize," Lady Pemberton said, though her eyes followed him with something beyond professional concern. "He's been under tremendous pressure." "The artistic temperament," Poirot said mildly, "but perhaps we might see the studio." The room was chaos. Canvases stacked against walls, paint tubes scattered across tables, brushes standing in jars like weapons in an armory. The smell of turpentine was overwhelming. But what drew the eye was the canvas on the easel, covered with a white sheet. "The 13th painting," Cross said reverently. "His masterpiece, he claims. No one's seen it yet." Not even you, madame, Poirot asked Lady Pemberton. Marcus insists on revealing it tomorrow night. He says it will change everything. Her fingers found her pearls again. Poirot circled the covered canvas thoughtfully. Most intriguing. And these others? Sarah Chen, who had followed us up, gestured to the stacked paintings, studies and discards. Marcus is prolific, but ruthlessly critical of his own work. He's destroyed at least a dozen pieces this month. Destroyed? I asked. But surely they'd be worth. Marcus doesn't care about money. Whitmore interrupted from the doorway, which is fortunate, since he spends it faster than he earns it. That's unfair, Lady Pemberton said sharply. Artists have expenses. Champagne and opium are expenses now. The temperature in the room dropped perceptibly. Lady Pemberton's face went pale. James, that's quite enough. Is it? We're meant to celebrate him tomorrow, while he— Whitmore caught himself, glancing at us. Forgive me, the stress of the exhibition. Poirot had wandered to the window, apparently absorbed in the view of Brook Street below. Such a busy thoroughfare. Tell me, who has keys to the gallery? Besides myself. Lady Pemberton counted on her fingers. James, Damien, Sarah, and our head of security, Mr. Rawlings. Oh, and Marcus for the studio. And the alarm code? The same people, except Marcus. He can never remember it. I see. Poirot turned from the window. Madame, might we speak privately? About the specific arrangements for tomorrow? Lady Pemberton led us to her office on the second floor, a sanctuary of order after the chaos of the studio. The walls were lined with photographs of past exhibitions, artists and dignitaries. I noticed one of a younger Lady Pemberton with a distinguished older man, presumably her late husband. Monsieur Poirot, she began once the door closed, I sense you suspect more than simple blackmail. What I suspect, madame, is that you have not told me everything. Your relationship with Monsieur Devereaux, it is not merely professional, no? She stood abruptly, walking to the window. Is it so obvious? To one who observes, yes, you wish to protect him, even from himself. I'm not having an affair with him, if that's what you're implying. Her reflection in the window looked tired. But I care for him. He reminds me of Charles when he was young, that same passionate intensity, that refusal to compromise. I discovered Marcus, nurtured his talent. He's like a son, Poirot suggested gently. God help me, yes, the son Charles and I never had. She turned back to us. But lately, he's changed. The drugs, the paranoia. He accused James of theft, Damien of sabotage. He trusts no one. Not even you. Sometimes I think he hates me most of all. Her voice was barely a whisper. Because I'm the one who brought him into this world he despises. Before Poirot could respond, Sarah Chen knocked urgently. Lady Pemberton, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a problem with the champagne delivery, and Mr. Rawlings says someone's tampered with the service door. We followed her downstairs to the rear of the gallery. The service door stood open, its lock clearly forced. Mr. Rawlings, a solid man with military bearing, was examining the damage. Happened sometime last night, he reported. But here's the odd thing, nothing's missing. I've done a complete inventory. Poirot knelt by the door, examining the lock with his magnifying glass. Most curious. The force applied. It was from inside, not outside. Someone wished to make it appear like a break-in, but they were already within. That's impossible, Whitmore protested. The alarm was not triggered, obviously, which means someone with the code did this. Poirot stood, brushing invisible dust from his knees. Tell me, Mr. Rawlings, do you live on the premises? No, sir. I leave at 10 sharp every night, Return at 7 in the morning. And last night? Who was the last to leave? Rawlings consulted his log. Mr. Cross, at 9:47, said he was making final adjustments to the lighting. All eyes turned to Damien Cross, who had just appeared with an armload of champagne bottles. His face flushed. I was here late, yes. But I left through the front door, as always. Check the security footage if you don't believe me. The cameras were mysteriously offline from 10 to midnight, Rawlings said grimly. How convenient, Whitmore muttered. I don't like what you're implying, Cross said, setting down the bottles with unnecessary force. Gentlemen, please, Lady Pemberton intervened. We have the exhibition tomorrow. Whatever happened, we must— A scream cut through her words. It came from upstairs, the studio. We ran up the stairs to find Sarah Chen standing frozen in the doorway. The white sheet that had covered Marcus's masterpiece lay on the floor. The canvas on the easel had been slashed to ribbons. Mon Dieu, Poirot breathed. Marcus appeared behind us, took in the scene, and let out an inhuman sound. He fell to his knees before the destroyed painting, his hands hovering over the ruined canvas as if he could somehow heal it. Who? He whispered. Then louder, Who did this? Marcus, I'm so sorry. Lady Pemberton reached for him, but he shoved her away. You! He stood, rage transforming his features. You never wanted me to show it. You knew what it would reveal. What are you talking about? Lady Pemberton stepped back, confused. The truth about your precious gallery, about what you've all built on lies and theft. He laughed wildly. But you're too late. I have photographs. Tomorrow, everyone will know. Know what? Whitmore demanded. Marcus's smile was savage. Ask your partner, Whitmore. Ask her about the Bernardino collection. Ask her how a nobody gallery in London suddenly acquired works that disappeared from Italy during the war. The silence was deafening. Lady Pemberton's face had gone white as marble. That's enough, she said quietly. Everyone out. The gallery is closed until tomorrow evening. But the preparations, Cross protested, will be completed tomorrow. Out, all of you. As we filed out, Poirot paused by the destroyed canvas, studying the slashes. He picked up something small from the floor, a button, it looked like, and pocketed it discreetly. Outside on Brook Street, Poirot hailed a taxi. Once we were underway, he was silent for several minutes, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. The plot thickens, mon ami, he finally said. We have blackmail, vandalism, and now accusations of wartime theft. Do you think Lady Pemberton really? What I think matters less than what someone believes, and someone believes strongly enough to destroy. He pulled out the button he'd collected. It was distinctive, black with a gold crest. From an expensive suit, this, the kind Monsieur Whitmore wears. Then he destroyed the painting. Perhaps, or perhaps someone wishes us to think so. He turned the button over thoughtfully. Tell me, Hastings, what did you observe about the destroyed painting? It was thoroughly ruined, slashed to pieces. Yes, but slashed how? With passion? With rage? Or with method? I tried to recall. I'm not sure. The slashes were precise, Hastings, deliberate. This was not a crime of passion, but of purpose. Someone destroyed that specific painting for a specific reason. To prevent its revelation tomorrow? Or to ensure it? Poirot's eyes gleamed. Consider, Marcus says he has photographs. So destroying the original achieves what? It creates drama, sensation. It ensures that tomorrow's exhibition will be remembered. You think Marcus destroyed his own painting? I think, mon ami, that everyone in that gallery has something to hide. And tomorrow, when they gather for the exhibition, someone's secret will be worth killing for. The next evening came too quickly. The Pemberton Gallery glowed with light and ambition, its windows revealing the glittering crowd within. We arrived fashionably late, at Poirot's insistence. "Let the stage be set," he had said. "The actors in place." The gallery was packed with London's cultural elite. Champagne flowed, conversations buzzed, and the paintings, those violent expressions of light and shadow, seemed to pulse with life under the carefully arranged spotlights. Lady Pemberton stood near the entrance, resplendent in black velvet, greeting guests with perfect composure. Only the tightness around her eyes betrayed her anxiety. "Monsieur Poirot, Captain Hastings, I wasn't certain you'd come." "But of course, madame. The show, as they say, must go on." Poirot accepted a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. "I see all your principals are present." Indeed they were. Whitmore worked the room with practiced charm, discussing prices with potential buyers. Cross held court near the largest painting, explaining technique to an enraptured audience. Sarah Chen moved efficiently through the crowd, managing logistics with quiet competence. "Where is Monsieur Devereaux?" I asked. "In the studio," Lady Pemberton said. "He refuses to come down until the moment of revelation. We've set up a screen where the destroyed painting was meant to hang. He insists on showing his photographs at precisely 9 o'clock. "How theatrical," Poirot murmured. "And who has been upstairs today?" "Everyone. At various times the police came this morning about the vandalism, though I convinced them to be discreet. Then the staff, setting up the projection equipment Marcus demanded." Chapter 3. Death in Mayfair. 8:45. The gallery hummed with anticipation. Guests clustered near the screen that would soon display Marcus's mysterious photographs. I noticed several people checking their watches, the champagne growing warm in their hands. Poirot had positioned himself where he could observe everyone. Lady Pemberton, near the screen, wringing her hands despite her smile. Whitmore by the office stairs, his face flushed from drink or anxiety. Cross pacing near the main entrance, and Sarah Chen, clipboard abandoned, standing very still by the service door. "It is curious, is it not, Hastings?" Poirot murmured. "How they arrange themselves, like players awaiting their cues." At 8:50, Lady Pemberton moved to the centre of the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, in 10 minutes, Marcus Devereaux will present his special revelation. Please gather round." The crowd shifted, pressing closer. The air grew thick with perfume and expectation. 8:55. Whitmore climbed the stairs, presumably to fetch Marcus. We heard his footsteps overhead, then silence. 9 o'clock came. Nothing happened. The crowd murmured restlessly. Lady Pemberton's smile grew strained. "I'm sure he'll be down momentarily. Artists, you know." 9:05. Whitmore hadn't returned. "Perhaps we should check," Cross suggested, his voice tight. Lady Pemberton nodded. "Sarah, would you—" But Poirot was already moving. "Permit me, madame." We climbed the stairs, Lady Pemberton and Cross following. The studio door stood ajar, light spilling into the hallway. Through the gap, we could see Whitmore standing frozen. Poirot pushed the door wide. Marcus Devereaux lay sprawled beside his easel, his body contorted, his face a mask of agony. A champagne glass lay shattered beside him, its contents pooling with something darker. "Don't touch anything," Poirot commanded. though no one had moved. He knelt beside the body, careful not to disturb the scene. He is dead. Perhaps 15 minutes, no more. Lady Pemberton swayed. Cross caught her arm, his own face pale as paper. But we were all downstairs, Whitmore stammered. How could— Precisely the question. Poirot examined the broken glass without touching it. Captain Hastings, please telephone for the police. Ask for Inspector Japp, if he is available. Tell him Hercule Poirot requires his assistance. I hurried to Lady Pemberton's office. Through the window, I could see the crowd below, still waiting, unaware that their evening sensation had become tragedy. When I returned, Poirot was examining the easel. A new canvas sat there, not slashed, but painted solid black. Curious, he murmured. This was not here yesterday. Marcus must have painted it today, Sarah Chen said from the doorway. She'd appeared silently, her face composed but her hands trembling. He was here all afternoon. Alone? Mostly. I brought him lunch at 2. He seemed calmer. Said he'd made a decision. What kind of decision? Poirot asked. He didn't say. Just that everything would be clear after tonight. The police arrived within 20 minutes, Inspector Japp himself, looking harried but competent. Poirot, he said, surveying the scene. Why is it always complicated when you're involved? Because, mon ami, the simple murders do not require Hercule Poirot. He gestured to the body. Poisoned, almost certainly. The champagne, it would mask the bitter taste. Cyanide. Perhaps. The speed suggests something powerful. But observe. Poirot pointed to the deceased's collar. The staining here. He was drinking before the fatal glass. Japp ordered the room sealed and the guests detained downstairs for questioning. Lady Pemberton provided her office for interviews, while the body was photographed and removed. Right then, Japp said, settling behind Lady Pemberton's desk. Who had access to the victim today? Everyone, Lady Pemberton said wearily. She sat across from him, looking suddenly older. The staff were all here preparing. Marcus was in and out of the studio all day. And the champagne? From our exhibition supply. Anyone could have taken a bottle. Japp made notes. Who stood to gain from his death? Silence stretched uncomfortably. Inspector, Whitmore finally said, I should tell you that Marcus and I had disagreements about money. He'd accused me of embezzlement. Had he now? Baseless accusations. My books are impeccable. But he'd threatened to make his claims public tonight. Along with other accusations, Poirot added quietly. Is that not so, Lady Pemberton? She closed her eyes. Marcus had discovered something about the gallery's history. About artworks my husband acquired after the war. He believed they were stolen from Jewish collectors by the Nazis. Japp's pencil stopped moving. Were they? I don't know, the words burst out. Charles never told me details about his acquisitions. After he died, I found some troubling documents, but nothing conclusive. Yet Marcus believed he had proof, Poirot said. He claimed to. Said he'd found records in our archives, photographs of documents. He was going to expose everything tonight. Giving you motive for murder, Japp observed. I didn't kill him. I loved— She stopped abruptly. You loved him, Poirot finished gently. As a son, or perhaps as more than a son. Cross made a sound of disgust. Everyone could see how she doted on him. It was embarrassing. That's enough, Damien, Lady Pemberton said sharply. Is it? Should I pretend I didn't see you leaving his flat at midnight last week? Or notice the expensive gifts, the Swiss watch, the Italian shoes? "You're fired," Lady Pemberton said coldly. "You can't fire me. I'm the only one who actually knows about art in this place. Without me, without you, the gallery would survive," Whitmore interrupted. "Without our reputation, we're finished." Poirot had been examining items on the desk, papers, photographs, a ledger. "Inspector, might I suggest individual interviews? The collective tension, it clouds the truth." Japp agreed. One by one, they were questioned. Sarah Chen went first. She admitted to being in love with Marcus, hopelessly, she said, as he barely noticed her existence. She'd brought him lunch, left at 2:30, and hadn't returned to the studio until the body was discovered. "Though I did see Mr. Whitmore go up around 4, she added. "He was carrying a champagne bottle." Whitmore, when questioned, admitted this. "I went to make peace. The accusations were damaging the gallery. I thought if we could talk man to man. And he laughed at me, said I was a parasite, feeding off real talent. I left the champagne and walked out." "You left an open bottle with a man you were angry with?" "I opened it in front of him, poured 2 glasses. He wouldn't drink with me, so I left it. A peace offering he rejected." Cross was next. His story was simpler. He'd been in the main gallery all day, supervising installations. Several witnesses confirmed this. "But I'll tell you who wasn't where she claimed," he said. "Sarah. I saw her going upstairs at least 3 times. And the last time around 6, she was crying when she came down." When confronted with this, Sarah Chen broke down. "I went to beg him not to destroy Lady Pemberton. Whatever the gallery's past, she didn't deserve it. But he wouldn't listen. Said the truth had to come out." "And the 3rd visit?" I told him I loved him. He laughed." Her voice was barely audible. "Said I was a child playing at passion." Poirot, who had been silent during these interviews, suddenly spoke. "Mademoiselle Chen, what did you do with the photographs Marcus mentioned?" She went very still. "I don't know what you mean. But you do. You see, they are not in the studio, not in his flat. The police have checked. Yet Marcus was not a man to bluff. These photographs existed, so where are they? I don't— The truth, mademoiselle. It will be discovered regardless." Sarah's composure crumbled entirely. From her clipboard, that ever-present clipboard, she pulled a manila envelope. "I took them after he died. Before Mr. Whitmore arrived, I couldn't let them destroy Lady Pemberton." Japp seized the envelope, examining its contents. His expression grew grave. "These are serious allegations. Documents suggesting the Bernardino collection was indeed looted art." "But Charles Pemberton is dead," Sarah said desperately. "Why should Lady Pemberton suffer for his crimes?" "Because," a new voice said from the doorway, "justice doesn't have a statute of limitations." We all turned. A young woman stood there, mid-20s, dark-haired, with Marcus's bone structure softened to feminine beauty. "Who are you?" Japp demanded. "Lucia Devereaux. Marcus was my brother." She stepped into the room, her eyes blazing. "And one of you murdered him." Chapter 4. Portraits and Lies. Lucia Devereaux stood like an avenging angel in Lady Pemberton's office, her dark eyes scanning each face with accusation. She wore a simple black dress that emphasized her pallor, and her hands clutched a leather portfolio. "Mademoiselle," Inspector Japp said carefully, "I'm sorry for your loss, but how did you know to come? Marcus telephoned me this afternoon. Said if anything happened to him, I should bring these to the police." She placed the portfolio on the desk. The real photographs, not the ones that poor devoted secretary took. Sarah Chen went white. "But you took what Marcus wanted you to take." Lucia's smile was bitter. My brother was many things, but never careless. He knew someone would try to suppress the evidence, so he created decoys. Poirot leaned forward, his eyes bright with interest. Most ingenious. And these genuine photographs, they reveal what precisely? Lucia opened the portfolio with reverence. Everything. Charles Pemberton's dealings with Nazi officers, bills of sale for artworks stolen from Jewish families, and this, she pulled out a photograph of a painting. The real Bernardino Madonna. It's hanging in this gallery right now. Renamed and reattributed. Lady Pemberton made a sound like she'd been struck. That's impossible. Charles would never. Your husband was a war profiteer, Lady Pemberton. Lucia's voice was ice. He used his Red Cross connections to smuggle art out of Italy. 32 pieces in total. 32, Whitmore repeated slowly. The number of years ago, the gallery was founded. Précisément, Poirot murmured, built on the foundation of theft. But why would Marcus care? Cross demanded. He wasn't Jewish. He had no connection to those families. Didn't he? Lucia turned to him. Our grandmother was Sophia Bernardino. She survived the camps, but her family's entire collection vanished. She spent her last years writing letters, trying to trace her paintings. One trail led here. The room fell silent, absorbing this revelation. So Marcus came here deliberately, Japp said, pretending to be discovered painting in Covent Garden. He'd been planning it for 3 years, Lucia confirmed, getting good enough to catch your curator's eye. And it worked. He was inside, with access to the archives. Then why not simply expose the truth immediately? Poirot asked. Why the elaborate deception? Because he fell in love. Lucia's voice cracked slightly. The fool actually fell in love with her. She pointed at Lady Pemberton. Started believing she was innocent, that she didn't know. He tormented himself trying to find a way to reveal the truth without destroying her. Lady Pemberton's face was streaked with tears. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. But someone knew, Poirot said quietly. Someone who couldn't allow the revelation. Someone who had too much to lose. We all had something to lose, Whitmore said heavily. The gallery would be ruined. Everything we've built, everything you stole, Lucia spat. Enough, Japp interrupted. Miss Devereaux, where were you this evening? At my hotel until 8. Then I took a taxi here, arriving just now. The desk clerk can confirm it. And this afternoon, when your brother called? I was at the National Gallery. I'm an art historian. I was researching provenance for my doctoral thesis, which is how Marcus and I discovered the truth about our grandmother's collection. Poirot had been unusually quiet, studying the photographs Lucia had brought. Now he looked up. Mademoiselle, your brother's final painting, the one that was destroyed, what was it? A portrait, she said softly, of our grandmother, surrounded by her lost paintings. He worked from her photographs, the only images that survived. It was his masterpiece. And someone destroyed it to prevent the connection being made. That's what Marcus believed. He called me, terrified. Said someone had been in the studio, that they knew what he'd discovered. Yet he still came tonight, Poirot mused, knowing the danger. He had to, for our grandmother, for all the families whose heritage was stolen. Sarah Chen suddenly spoke. He wasn't afraid when I brought him lunch. He was resolved, like he'd accepted something. Or decided something, Poirot corrected. He stood, beginning his characteristic pacing. Let us consider the timeline. Marcus calls his sister in the afternoon, afraid. Yet by 2 o'clock, he is calm, resolved. What changed? Someone threatened him, Japp suggested. Or offered him something, Cross said. Marcus liked money more than he admitted. How dare you? Lucia started. It's true, Whitmore interrupted. Last week he demanded double his commission, said he deserved it for his special contribution to the gallery. Blackmail, Japp noted. Justice, Lucia countered, claiming what was stolen from our family. Poirot raised his hand for silence. We are missing something essential. The black canvas. Why paint over his masterpiece with black? Despair, I suggested, if he knew he was going to die. But he did not know, mon ami. The champagne that killed him was brought at 4 o'clock by Monsieur Whitmore. Yet the black paint was applied earlier. It was dry when we discovered it. How do you know it was painted today? Cross asked. The smell of fresh paint, still detectable beneath the turpentine. And observe, Poirot produced his notebook, showing a sketch. The pattern of paint drops on the floor. They fall directly down, not at an angle. The painter stood still, deliberately applying layer after layer. Like a ritual, Lady Pemberton whispered, or a funeral shroud. Exactament. But whose funeral? His own, or someone else's? Before anyone could answer, there was a commotion in the hallway. The door burst open, and a man in evening dress stumbled in, his face flushed with drink and excitement. Vivienne! There's a crowd outside demanding to know what's happened. The rumours are flying, some saying Marcus is dead, others that he's been arrested for forgery. Lord Pemberton, Lady Pemberton said weakly. Charles's cousin. He wasn't invited tonight. Wasn't invited? Lord Pemberton drew himself up indignantly. To my own family's gallery? After everything I've done? What have you done, monsieur? Poirot asked mildly. Lord Pemberton turned, seeming to notice the others for the first time. Who are you? Vivienne, what is this? This is Monsieur Hercule Poirot, Japp said. And I'm Inspector Japp, Scotland Yard. There's been a murder. The colour drained from Lord Pemberton's face. Marcus? You knew the victim? Japp asked. Everyone knew that temperamental boy. Vivienne treated him like the son she never had, while Charles's actual family was ignored. You resented him, Poirot observed. I resented the favouritism. This gallery should have passed to family when Charles died. Instead, he pointed at Lady Pemberton, kept control, bringing in outsiders, lavishing attention on that artist. Where were you this evening, Lord Pemberton? At my club until an hour ago. Then I heard about the exhibition, and came to see what spectacle that boy had planned. You knew about the revelation? Lord Pemberton laughed bitterly. Marcus told me himself. Came to my flat 2 days ago, drunk and rambling about justice and restoration. Said the gallery's crimes would be exposed. And you didn't think to warn anyone, Whitmore demanded. Warn you? Why? So you could continue profiting from Charles's enterprise while his blood relatives got nothing. Gentlemen, Poirot interrupted. Lord Pemberton, what exactly did Marcus tell you about these crimes? That Charles had traded in stolen art. That the whole gallery was built on theft. The boy had documents, he said. Photographs. Did he show them to you? No, but he offered me a deal. Lord Pemberton's jaw tightened. Said if I helped him, he'd ensure I got my rightful inheritance. Help him how? Japp leaned forward. He wanted access to Charles's private papers, the ones Vivienne keeps locked in the house safe. Said there was something there that would complete his proof. All eyes turned to Lady Pemberton. She looked exhausted, defeated. I don't know what he meant. I've never opened Charles's safe. He died so suddenly, and then the gallery needed attention, and I was afraid of what I might find. The combination? Poirot asked. In my desk, lower drawer beneath the accounts ledger. Sarah Chen moved to get it, but Poirot stopped her. No, for now, We focus on the murder. The safe can wait." "Can it?" Lucia demanded. "My brother died for what's in that safe." "Your brother died, mademoiselle, because he knew too much, but also, perhaps, because he knew too little." Poirot turned to the group. "Consider. Marcus discovers the gallery's dark secret. He plans to expose it. Yet someone kills him before he can. Why not earlier? Why wait until the very moment of revelation?" "Drama," Cross suggested, "making a statement?" "Or preventing one," Poirot said. "What if the murder was not about what Marcus would reveal, but what he would not reveal?" "I don't understand," Japp said. "Nor do I, yet. But observe the facts. Marcus painted his grandmother's portrait surrounded by stolen paintings. Someone destroyed it. He then painted a black canvas, a void, an absence. What does this suggest?" "That something was missing," I ventured. "Précisément, Hastings." "But what?" Chapter 5. The Hidden Canvas. The group had moved to Lady Pemberton's Mayfair townhouse, a Georgian masterpiece just minutes from the gallery. Inspector Japp had insisted on opening the safe immediately, despite the late hour. We assembled in Charles Pemberton's former study, a room frozen in time, with leather-bound books, hunting prints, and the lingering scent of pipe tobacco. Lady Pemberton's hands shook as she retrieved the combination from her hiding place. "I haven't been in this room properly for 5 years," she admitted. "Just to dust, nothing more." The safe was built into the wall behind a portrait, ironically, of Charles Pemberton himself, painted in oils with masterful technique. "Who painted this?" Poirot asked. "Charles commissioned it from an Italian artist after the war. Giovanni something. He never said more about him." "Giovanni Bernardino," Lucia said coldly. "My grandmother's nephew. He died in 1947, supposedly of tuberculosis, but my grandmother believed he was murdered." Lady Pemberton's hand froze on the safe dial. "That's not possible." "Many things you believed impossible are proving true tonight," Lucia replied. The safe opened with a soft click. Inside were bundled papers, photograph albums, and several canvas rolls. Japp pulled them out carefully, laying them on Charles's desk. "Mon Dieu," Poirot breathed as he unrolled the first canvas. It was exquisite, a Madonna and Child in the Renaissance style, the paint glowing despite its age. "The real Bernardino Madonna," Lucia whispered. "The one in your gallery is a forgery." "But why keep the original hidden?" Whitmore asked, bewildered. "It must be worth a fortune." "Because Charles Pemberton was not just a thief," Poirot said, studying the documents. "He was a forger. Or rather, he employed one." The papers told a damning story. Letters between Charles and various dealers, discussing the creation of replacement pieces for destroyed artworks. Bank records showing payments to artists for restoration work. And most damning, a ledger detailing which galleries held originals and which held Charles's forgeries. "He sold the originals privately and displayed forgeries," Japp summarized. "Brilliant, if completely criminal." "There are 12 canvases here," Sarah Chen said, having counted the rolls. "All originals of pieces currently in the gallery." 13, Poirot corrected, pointing to an empty canvas tube. "One is missing." "Which one?" Lady Pemberton asked, though her voice suggested she already knew. Poirot consulted the ledger. Portrait of a young woman, attributed to Giovanni Bernardino. The notation says it was sold in 1952 to a private collector in Switzerland. "That's impossible," Cross interjected. "That painting has been in our gallery since its founding. It's in the Victorian room right now." "A forgery has been in your gallery," Poirot corrected. "But where is the original? And more importantly, who has it now?" "Marcus," Sarah said suddenly. "He was obsessed with that portrait. said it reminded him of someone, but would never say who. His grandmother as a young woman, Lucia supplied. It was her portrait, painted by her nephew when she was 17. So Marcus found it, Japp said. The question is, what did he do with it? Poirot had wandered to the window, gazing out at the gaslit street below. The black canvas, he murmured. Of course. How could I have been so blind? He turned to face us, his eyes bright with revelation. The black canvas was not painted today. It was painted over something else today. The little grey cells, they understand now. I mean, mes amis, that Marcus found his grandmother's portrait and painted it into his masterpiece. The destroyed canvas was not just a memorial. It was a restoration. He had incorporated the original Bernardino portrait into his own work. But who would know that? Lady Pemberton asked. Someone who watched him work. Someone who understood what finding that portrait would mean. Poirot's gaze swept the room. Someone who could not allow that particular painting to be revealed. But the portrait itself isn't criminal evidence, Whitmore protested. It's just a painting. Ah, but it is more than that. Lord Pemberton, you said Marcus offered you a deal. What precisely did he want from Charles's papers? Lord Pemberton shifted uncomfortably. Proof of ownership. He said there were documents that would prove his family's claim to specific pieces. And did you help him? I gave him a key to this house 2 weeks ago. Lady Pemberton gasped. You had no right. I had every right. This was Charles's house, Charles's legacy, not yours alone. So Marcus had access to the safe, Japp concluded. He took the original portrait. But not just that, Poirot said. Observe this invoice, dated 1952. The sale of the original portrait of a young woman. The buyer's name has been carefully obscured, but the payment method, a transfer from Whitmore and Associates, solicitors. All eyes turned to James Whitmore, who had gone very pale. Your father's firm, non? Poirot asked gently. My father handled Charles's legal affairs, yes, but that doesn't mean. It means your family knew about the forgeries, perhaps even facilitated them. Whitmore straightened, recovering his composure. Even if that were true, which I don't admit, it has nothing to do with Marcus's death. Doesn't it? Poirot pulled out another document. This codicil to Charles's will, witnessed by your father. It states that should the truth about the gallery's founding ever come to light, all assets would be liquidated and donated to Holocaust survivors' organizations. A crisis of conscience, perhaps, near the end of his life. I've never seen that document, Lady Pemberton said, because it was hidden here, in the safe you never opened. But someone else knew about it. Someone who stood to lose everything if the truth emerged. You're suggesting I killed Marcus to protect my inheritance? Whitmore's voice was steady, but sweat beaded on his forehead. I suggest nothing yet, but consider. You brought the champagne to Marcus. You had opportunity. So did everyone else. Sarah was in and out all day. Damien had keys. Even Lucia could have. I wasn't in London until tonight, Lucia said firmly. So you claim. But you knew your brother's plans. You could have come earlier, killed him to make him a martyr for your cause. How dare you suggest— Enough! Poirot raised his hand. We argue in circles. Let us return to facts. Inspector, might we examine the black canvas more closely? I believe if we test the paint layers, we will find the Bernardino portrait beneath. I'll have forensics look at it, Japp agreed. But that doesn't tell us who killed him. Not directly, but it tells us why today. Why this specific moment. Poirot turned to Sarah Chen. Mademoiselle, You say Marcus was calm at lunch. What exactly did he eat? Soup and bread from the cafe next door. He barely touched it. And to drink? Water. He said he wanted a clear head for tonight. Yet by 4 o'clock, he was drinking champagne with Whitmore. I told you, he refused to drink with me, Whitmore insisted. Then how do you explain the 2 glasses found in the studio, both used? Poirot asked. Whitmore faltered. Perhaps he drank after I left. From both glasses? How peculiar. Cross suddenly spoke up. There was someone else. I saw a woman leaving the building around 5:30. I couldn't see who. She wore a dark coat with a hood. Height? Build? Japp asked. Average height, slender. Could have been Sarah. Could have been Lucia. I was at the National Gallery, Lucia protested. Could have been Lady Pemberton, Cross continued. Or someone else entirely. Lady Pemberton stood abruptly. This is intolerable. Marcus is dead. My gallery is ruined. My husband's crimes exposed. And you all stand here accusing each other like children. She walked to Charles's portrait, touching the frame gently. I loved 2 men in my life. Charles, despite his flaws, and Marcus, because of his. Neither deserved their fate. Perhaps not, Poirot said softly. But someone believed otherwise. Someone who saw Marcus not as a victim, but as a threat. Not to money or reputation, but to something more precious. What could be more precious than reputation to these people? Lucia asked bitterly. Love, mademoiselle. Love, and its cousin, loyalty. Sarah Chen made a small sound, quickly suppressed. Poirot noticed, of course. You have something to add, mademoiselle? It's just... Marcus mentioned something strange yesterday. He said he'd received a letter. Someone claiming to be a friend, warning him to be careful tonight. Did he show you this letter? No, he burned it. Said he knew who it was from, and that they meant well, but didn't understand. Understand what? That some truths have to be told, no matter the cost. Poirot nodded slowly. And yet someone ensured that truth would die with him. Or so they believed. He walked to Charles's desk, running his fingers along its surface. Lady Pemberton, your husband, did he have any other business partners? Anyone else who knew about the forgeries? Not that I know of. He was very secretive about his dealings. Yet someone knew enough to help him. The forgeries, they are too good for an amateur. A professional artist was involved. The Giovanni who painted his portrait, I suggested, who died conveniently soon after, Poirot noted, but perhaps he had an apprentice, someone who continued the work. If they did, there's no record of it, Whitmore said. I've been through all the gallery's books. The official books, yes, but what of the unofficial ones? Poirot held up a small notebook from the safe. This appears to be Charles's private record. And here, payments to D.C. spanning 20 years. D.C., Japp frowned. Those initials mean anything to anyone? Damien Cross had gone very still. My father was David Cross. He died 10 years ago. Your father was an artist? Poirot asked. A restorer. He worked for various galleries after the war. Cross's voice was hollow. Including the Pemberton Gallery. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmured. The son follows the father's footsteps, but in ignorance or knowledge. Chapter 6. Sketches of Truth. Damien Cross stood frozen, all eyes upon him. His face had taken on a greyish pallor that made him look suddenly older, more fragile. Your father was David Cross, the restorer, Poirot repeated. And you never thought to mention this connection. Why should I? Cross's voice cracked. He died when I was 20. I barely knew about his work for the gallery. Yet you chose to work here yourself. Curious, no? Lady Pemberton offered me a position based on my credentials. I didn't seek it out particularly." "That's not true," Sarah Chen said quietly. "You told me once that you'd dreamed of working here since childhood, that your father had shown you paintings from the collection." Cross turned on her. I was drunk, it didn't mean anything." "Everything means something," Poirot said. "Your father created forgeries for Charles Pemberton. Did he teach you his techniques?" "He taught me to appreciate art, to understand composition, brushwork, the chemistry of paint." Cross's hands clenched. "He never told me they were forgeries. I thought he was simply a brilliant restorer." "When did you learn the truth?" 6 months ago. Marcus showed me the evidence he'd found. Payment records with my father's initials. I confronted Lady Pemberton, but she claimed ignorance. "Which was true," Lady Pemberton said. "I knew nothing of David Cross's involvement." "But someone did," Poirot mused. "Someone who has been protecting this secret for decades." He walked to the window again, a habit when his little grey cells were most active. "Let us reconsider the timeline. Marcus arrives at the gallery at noon. He is agitated, having discovered his painting destroyed. By 2 o'clock, when Mademoiselle Chen brings lunch, he is calm. What changed?" "Someone spoke to him," I suggested. "Précisément. But who? Who could calm him when his masterpiece lay in ribbons?" "The person who destroyed it," Lucia said bitterly. "They must have explained why. Or offered him something in exchange." Poirot turned from the window. "Monsieur Cross, you were in the gallery all morning, preparing. Did you go to the studio?" "Several times. The lighting needed adjustment for the projection." "And did you see the destroyed painting?" "Not destroyed. I saw it intact at 9 this morning. So the destruction occurred between 9 and noon. Who was in the building?" "Myself, Sarah, Lady Pemberton. Whitmore arrived at 10. The cleaning crew left at 8:30. "And Marcus himself arrived when?" "He never left," Sarah said. "He slept in the studio last night. I saw his sleeping bag when I brought him coffee at 7. Poirot's eyebrows rose. "He spent the night. This was not mentioned before." "It wasn't unusual," Lady Pemberton explained. "When he was working intensely, he'd stay over. There's a small bathroom adjoining the studio. So anyone entering the building this morning could have destroyed the painting. But let us ask a different question. Why destroy it at all? What did it reveal that was so dangerous?" "The truth about my grandmother's collection," Lucia said. "But that truth was already documented in photographs, in the evidence Marcus had gathered. No, there was something specific about that painting, something only visible in the original work." Lord Pemberton, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. "Signatures. Charles was obsessed with signatures. Said they were the soul of a painting." "Explain," Poirot commanded. "He had a theory that artists hide secondary signatures in their work, invisible unless you know where to look. He claimed he could authenticate any painting by finding these hidden marks. And if Marcus had discovered such a signature in the portrait, it would prove definitively whether it was original or forged." Poirot pulled out his magnifying glass, examining the documents from the safe. "Here, a note in Charles's hand. D.C.'s hidden signature found in young woman portrait. Must ensure reproduction matches." "So my father did forge that specific painting," Cross said heavily. "Or did he?" Poirot held up another paper. "This invoice shows the original was sold in 1952. Your father didn't start working for Charles until 1954. "Then who? Perhaps we're asking the wrong question. Not who forged it, but who discovered it wasn't forged." "Marcus," Whitmore said impatiently. "Obviously. Was it obvious? Consider, Marcus incorporated the portrait into his painting. Would he do so if he knew it was fake? No, he believed it was his grandmother's authentic portrait. Someone else knew the truth. But who would know except Charles? And he's dead, Lady Pemberton said. Someone who had studied the paintings intimately. Someone who knew where to look for hidden signatures. Poirot's gaze settled on each person in turn. Someone who had access to both the originals and the forgeries. That could be any of us, Cross protested. Not any. It must be someone connected to both generations, Charles's time and now. Someone who bridges the gap between past and present crimes. Sarah Chen had been growing increasingly agitated. Now she burst out, "Why does it matter who knew what? Marcus is dead. Isn't finding his killer more important than these old secrets?" "But they are connected, mademoiselle. The past and present, they are woven together like paint on canvas." Poirot studied her carefully. "You are very young to be Lady Pemberton's personal assistant. How did you come to this position?" I applied. I had excellent references." "From whom?" Sarah hesitated. "Various galleries, the Whitehall, the Rosewood, both of which closed years before you would have been old enough to work," Poirot said gently. "So, these references, they were perhaps arranged?" "I don't know what you mean." "I think you do. Lady Pemberton, did someone recommend Mademoiselle Chen to you?" Lady Pemberton frowned. "Actually, yes. It was, what was his name? That elderly gentleman who used to visit the gallery. Mr. Chen, actually. Sarah's grandfather, I assumed." Sarah had gone white. "He wasn't my grandfather." "No," Poirot agreed. "He was David Cross, was he not? Still alive, contrary to what his son believes." Damien Cross staggered. "That's impossible. I attended his funeral." "You attended a funeral? But whose?" "Your father, he needed to disappear. Too many questions were being asked about his work, so he staged his death and began a new life. But he couldn't stay away from the gallery, from his creations. So he placed you here, mademoiselle, his protégé, trained in his techniques." "You're insane," Sarah whispered, but her hands trembled violently. "Am I? Shall we call the gentleman? I believe he lives in Hampstead now, under the name Chen Wei, a respected art teacher who never quite lost his European accent." Sarah broke. Yes, all right. David taught me. Raised me, really, after my parents died. But he's not a criminal. He's an artist who was trapped by circumstances. Trapped into forgery? Charles Pemberton threatened to expose him as a German refugee who'd lied on his immigration papers. David had no choice but to work for him. "So David Cross was actually David Krauss," Japp interjected. "A Jewish refugee who escaped Berlin in 1938, Sarah confirmed. He changed his name to avoid persecution, found work as a restorer. Then Charles discovered his secret. And blackmailed him into creating forgeries," Poirot concluded. "How poetic. Charles, who profited from Nazi theft, enslaving a Jewish artist to perpetuate his crimes." "But Marcus never knew this?" Lucia asked. "No. David was terrified Marcus would discover not just the forgeries, but Sarah's involvement. She's been creating new ones, you see, to replace the deteriorating fakes." "What?" Lady Pemberton gasped. "Only when necessary," Sarah said defensively. "The old forgeries were failing. Chemical analysis would expose them. I was protecting the gallery." "You were protecting David," Poirot corrected. "But Marcus threatened everything, didn't he? His investigation would expose not just Charles's crimes, but David's survival, your involvement, the ongoing deception. I didn't kill him," Sarah cried. "I loved him. Love and murder, they are often companions." Poirot walked to the desk, picking up the small notebook. But you did not work alone, did you? Someone else knew David was alive. Someone who had been protecting this secret for years. He turned to face the group. The woman in the dark coat, leaving at 5:30. She wore a hood to hide not her face, but her distinctive hair. Is that not so, Lady Pemberton? Lady Pemberton stood very straight. I don't know what you mean. You knew David Cross was alive. You've known for years. The payments marked DC in your husband's records. They continued after David's supposed death, but from your personal account. Prove it, she said quietly. Poirot produced a bank statement from the papers. These withdrawals, matching amounts, matching dates. You've been supporting him. He was a victim of my husband's cruelty. Was I supposed to let him starve? No, madame, but you did more than support him. You conspired with him to protect the gallery. When Marcus threatened to expose everything, you acted. I was at the gallery entrance all evening, greeting guests. Everyone saw me. From 7 o'clock, yes. But Marcus died before then. The champagne Monsieur Whitmore brought, you were there, weren't you? You shared a glass with Marcus at 5:30. That's absurd. Is it? Sarah, you said Marcus was calm at 2 o'clock. Who could calm him after such destruction? Not his supposed enemy Whitmore, not Cross, whom he didn't trust, not Sarah, whom he'd rejected. But you, madam, the woman he saw as a mother figure. Lady Pemberton's composure finally cracked. He was going to destroy everything. Not just the gallery, but David, Sarah, all of us. I begged him to reconsider. And when he refused, I offered him champagne. To toast his success, I said. He was pleased, thinking I'd accepted his decision. But the champagne was poisoned. No, Lady Pemberton's voice broke. I gave him a sedative, nothing more. Something to make him sleep through the exhibition. We could have managed the scandal, found a solution. But when James brought more champagne, Marcus drank from the new bottle, Poirot said softly, not knowing it too had been tampered with. But by whom? Chapter 7, The Final Stroke. The silence in Charles Pemberton's study was absolute. Lady Pemberton stood frozen, her admission hanging in the air like the scent of old tobacco. Inspector Japp looked between her and Whitmore, trying to piece together the sequence of events. So we have 2 attempts, Japp said slowly. Lady Pemberton's sedative at 5:30, and someone else's poison in the champagne Whitmore brought at 4. But that makes no sense, I protested. How could the champagne be poisoned at 4 if Whitmore himself drank from it? Did he? Poirot asked mildly. Monsieur Whitmore, you said you opened the bottle, poured 2 glasses. Marcus refused to drink. What did you do with your glass? Whitmore hesitated. I set it down. I was angry. I left without drinking. So neither glass was consumed at 4 o'clock. The champagne remained in the studio, untouched until later. When Marcus drank it after Lady Pemberton's visit, Japp concluded, précisément. But this raises a crucial question. Who poisoned it, and when? Poirot began his characteristic pacing, his patent leather shoes clicking on the wooden floor. Let us consider what we know. The champagne was brought at 4, left untouched. Lady Pemberton arrived at 5:30 with her own drugged champagne. Marcus drank that, began to feel drowsy. Then what? He drank from Whitmore's bottle to revive himself? Cross suggested. Perhaps. Or perhaps someone else was there. Someone who encouraged him to drink. Someone he trusted despite everything. But who was left? Lucia demanded. You've eliminated everyone. Have I? Let us reconsider the destroyed painting. It was intact at 9 in the morning, destroyed by noon. During that time, 4 people were in the building: Lady Pemberton, Sarah, Whitmore, and Damien Cross. We've been through this, but we have not asked the right question. Not who destroyed it, but who ordered its destruction. Poirot turned to Sarah Chen. You knew what that painting meant to Marcus. Would you destroy it? Never. Lady Pemberton, would you? I couldn't bear to see Marcus hurt. Whitmore? I don't care about paintings, only their value. Which leaves you, Monsieur Cross. But you claim you saw it intact at 9. I did. Then someone else was in the building. Someone with access, but not officially present. Poirot pulled out his phone, showing a photograph. This security image from the building across the street shows a figure entering the gallery at 8:15 this morning. The build, the gait, familiar, none. The image was grainy but recognizable. David Cross, or Chen Wei, entering through the service door. Damien Cross made a strangled sound. Father! Not dead after all, Poirot confirmed. He came to destroy the painting, but why? What did it reveal? The hidden signature, Lord Pemberton said suddenly. If Marcus had found it, he would have known the portrait was genuine, not a forgery. David Cross never forged that particular painting. Charles Pemberton lied about selling it. He kept the original, displayed it as a fake to avoid returning it to its rightful owners. But that doesn't make sense, Whitmore protested. It does if you understand Charles's psychology. He was a collector, obsessed with ownership. Some pieces he couldn't bear to part with, so he claimed they were forgeries while selling fake originals to others. My God, Lady Pemberton whispered, the implications are staggering. Many of your forgeries may be genuine, while paintings in museums worldwide might be David Cross's copies. Poirot turned to Damien. Your father knew this. He came to destroy the evidence that would reveal the full extent of the deception. To protect me, Sarah said quietly. If the truth came out, I'd be charged as an accomplice. And to protect his son, Poirot added, who built his career on his father's lies. Damien Cross had been growing paler throughout this revelation. Now he spoke, his voice hollow. I saw him. Everyone turned to stare. This morning, I saw someone I thought was a cleaner, but it was him, wasn't it? My dead father, alive all this time. What did you do? Poirot asked gently. I followed him to the studio, watched him slash the painting. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. My father, alive, destroying art. When he saw me, he tried to explain, but I ran. And then I went to the roof. I needed air, needed to think. My whole life was a lie. When did you come down? Around 1. Marcus was in the studio staring at his ruined work. And you spoke to him? I told him everything. About my father, the forgeries, all of it. I thought he'd rage, but instead he laughed. Said it was perfect, even better than what he'd planned. Because now he had a living witness to the crimes, Poirot said. Your father. He was going to expose him, tonight. Drag an old man through the mud for the sins of decades past. Damien's hands clenched. My father was a victim, forced into forgery by Charles Pemberton. But Marcus didn't care. So you decided to stop him. I just wanted to talk to him again. I went back at 6, after Lady Pemberton left. Marcus was drowsy but awake. I saw the champagne Whitmore had left. And I told Marcus he needed to stay alert for tonight. Encouraged him to drink something. He took the champagne, poured a glass. Damien's voice dropped to a whisper. He drank it all. The champagne you had poisoned, Poirot said. No, I didn't. I swear I didn't poison it. Then how do you explain his death? I can't, unless... Damien's eyes widened. The bitter almonds. What? When I was setting up the projection equipment around 3, I knocked over a container in the storage room. Bitter almonds scattered everywhere. They're used in restoration, or were, before we knew they contained cyanide compounds. I cleaned them up, but my hands? You handled the champagne glasses with contaminated hands, Poirot finished. I moved them to make room for equipment. Oh God, I must have transferred the poison without knowing. A tragic accident, Japp said skeptically. No, Poirot said quietly. Not an accident. You knew about the almonds' properties. Your father would have taught you. You knew that handling them, and then the glasses, would leave residue. That's speculation. It is logic. You discovered your father was alive. You learned your entire career was built on fraud. And Marcus threatened to destroy the only parent you had left. You acted not in sudden passion, but with the knowledge of a restorer's son. Even if that were true, you can't prove it. Can't I? Poirot produced an evidence bag. These almond shells, found in your jacket pocket. You didn't clean up as thoroughly as you thought. Damien stared at the evidence, his resistance crumbling. He was going to destroy everything. My father, Sarah, the gallery, everything would burn for his grandmother's revenge. So you killed him. I gave him a choice. I told him about the poisoned glass, told him not to drink it. But he laughed, said I was bluffing. He raised the glass in a mock toast to the gallery's destruction and drank it anyway. You let him choose his own death, Lady Pemberton said, horrified. I gave him the same choice he gave us, destruction or survival. He chose destruction. That's murder, Japp said, moving toward him. Is it? I warned him. He didn't believe me. Damien laughed bitterly. Just like my father didn't believe Charles Pemberton would really expose him. Like Lady Pemberton didn't believe Charles had stolen art. We're all victims of our disbelief. You are a victim of your choices, Poirot said sternly. You chose revenge over justice, silence over truth. The truth? Damien turned on him. The truth is that everyone in this room is guilty of something. Lady Pemberton knew about the forgeries. Whitmore's been skimming funds for years. Oh yes, Marcus was right about that. Sarah's been creating new forgeries. Lord Pemberton's been selling information about the gallery's acquisitions to competitors. Even Marcus's sister knew he was planning something illegal. I knew nothing illegal, Lucia protested. You knew he'd stolen the portrait from the safe. That's theft, isn't it? Enough, Poirot raised his hand. You seek to muddy the waters, but the truth remains clear. You, Damien Cross, murdered Marcus Devereaux. Prove it in court. Prove I deliberately poisoned him rather than accidentally contaminated the glasses. Prove I knew he'd drink from that specific glass. Damien's smile was cold. You can't. All you have is a theory, and some almond shells that prove nothing except that I was careless in cleaning up. Poirot studied him for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and produced a small recording device. Technology. It is sometimes useful, no? This has been recording since we entered this room. Damien's face went white. That's inadmissible. In court, perhaps, but Inspector Japp heard your confession, as did everyone present. You admitted to knowingly handling poisonous substances, and then the glasses. You admitted to warning Marcus about the poison, proving you knew it was there. I was confused, stressed. You were truthful for once. Poirot turned to Japp. Inspector, I believe you have enough. Japp nodded, signalling to the constables who had been waiting outside. Damien Cross, I'm arresting you for the murder of Marcus Devereaux. As they led him away, Damien turned back one last time. "Tell my father. Tell him I understand now. We do terrible things for family." After he was gone, the room seemed to exhale collectively. Lady Pemberton sank into a chair. Suddenly looking her age, "What happens now?" she asked. "The gallery will close," Whitmore said quietly. "The scandal, the investigations, we're finished." "Perhaps that is for the best," Poirot said. "Some houses are too haunted to save." "And my grandmother's paintings?" Lucia asked. "Will be returned to their rightful owners, where they can be traced," Japp assured her. "It will take time, but justice will be served." "Justice," Lady Pemberton repeated hollowly. "Charles is dead. David's in hiding. Damien's going to prison. Marcus is gone, and the gallery is destroyed. Where's the justice in that?" "Justice is not always kind, madame," Poirot said gently. "But truth is necessary. Marcus Devereaux died seeking it. Perhaps that is memorial enough." Sarah Chen had been silent throughout. Now she spoke, her voice small. "What about David? Will you arrest him too?" "That is for Inspector Japp to decide. But an old man who was forced into crime decades ago, who has lived in hiding and fear. Perhaps justice has already been served." "He should be found, questioned," Japp said. "But given his age and circumstances, I doubt the Crown will prosecute vigorously." "Then something good may yet come from this tragedy," Lady Pemberton said. "David can finally live without fear." "And you, madame?" Poirot asked. "What will you do?" "I'll sell the genuine pieces to pay restitution to the families Charles robbed. Then, I don't know, perhaps I'll travel, see real art in honest galleries." "I'll help with the restitution process," Lucia offered unexpectedly. "My expertise in provenance. It should go to something worthwhile." As we prepared to leave, Poirot paused by Charles Pemberton's portrait one last time. "It is ironic, no? This portrait, painted by a man Charles helped kill, hanging here all these years, watching over crimes and consequences." "Do you think Charles knew," Lady Pemberton asked, "that Giovanni Bernardino was murdered?" "I think, madame, that Charles Pemberton knew many things he chose not to acknowledge, like his wife's strength, his victim's humanity, and the price of his greed. And now we all pay that price. No, madame, now you are free of it. The truth, painful as it is, has liberated you all from the prison of lies." Outside, London was awakening to a new day. The fog had lifted, and weak sunshine illuminated the streets of Mayfair. As our taxi pulled away, I looked back at the gallery one last time. "A complex case, Poirot." "Oui, mon ami. Layers upon layers, like paint on canvas. But in the end, the truth emerged. Poor Marcus. He came seeking justice and found death. He found both Hastings. His death revealed truths that his life could not. The Bernardino collection will be returned, the forgeries exposed, the guilty punished. Is that not justice? I suppose, but at such a cost. Art, real art, it demands sacrifice. Marcus understood that. His final painting, the black canvas covering his grandmother's portrait, it was his masterpiece. Not what it showed, but what it concealed and then revealed. You mean he knew someone would discover the portrait beneath? I believe he suspected he would not survive the night. The black paint was his shroud, protecting the portrait until science could reveal it. Even in death, he was an artist. And Damien Cross, a talented man destroyed by the weight of inherited guilt, he killed to protect a father who was already dead to him, only to discover that protection required becoming the very thing his father had been forced to be, a criminal. As we returned to Whitehaven Mansions, Mrs. Pearson greeted us with fresh coffee and concerned inquiries about our night. Poirot settled into his chair with particular satisfaction, adjusting the antimacassar precisely. "You know, Hastings," he said, sipping his coffee with approval, "this case reminds Hercule Poirot of a fundamental truth, which is that art and crime, they are both about perception. What we see, what we choose to see, and what we refuse to see. Marcus saw truth where others saw beauty. Damien saw betrayal where others saw opportunity. Lady Pemberton saw love where others saw exploitation. And you, Poirot, what did you see?" He smiled, his moustache tilting upward. "I saw human nature, mon ami, in all its complexity, its capacity for both creation and destruction. The little grey cells, they understand that in the end, we are all both forgers and originals, copying what came before while trying to create something uniquely our own. That's rather philosophical for this early in the morning. Murder, Hastings, it always makes one philosophical. Because in facing death, we must confront what makes life worth living. For Marcus, it was truth. For Damien, it was family. For Lady Pemberton, it was love. And for you, for Hercule Poirot?" He set down his coffee cup with precision, aligning it perfectly with the saucer. "It is order, mon ami, the restoration of order from chaos, the solving of the puzzle, the triumph of method over madness. Even when the solution brings pain? Especially then, because pain based on truth can heal. Pain based on lies only festers." He closed his eyes, settling back in his chair. "And now, Hastings, Poirot must rest. The little grey cells, they require recuperation." As I left him there, bathed in morning sunlight, I reflected on the tragedy we'd witnessed. A gallery built on stolen art, a young artist dead in pursuit of justice, a son imprisoned for protecting a father's lies. Yet somehow, Poirot had found meaning in the chaos, truth in the deception. Perhaps that was his greatest talent, not just solving crimes, but finding humanity in the criminals, understanding in the incomprehensible. In a world of forgeries, Hercule Poirot remained utterly, invariably genuine. The Pemberton Gallery closed permanently 3 weeks later. The genuine artworks were returned to their rightful owners or their descendants. The forgeries were donated to schools for study. Lady Pemberton disappeared to the continent, some said to Switzerland, others to Italy. Sarah Chen opened an art restoration business, legitimate this time. Lord Pemberton inherited nothing but debts. And somewhere in Hampstead, an old man named Chen Wei finally stopped looking over his shoulder. His secret burden lifted at last. Justice, as Poirot had said, is not always kind, but it is necessary. And in the case of Marcus Devereaux and his murder by design, it was finally complete.